In a country defined by royalty, luxury, and old money, one man stands apart. He doesn't wear a crown or sit in a parliament, but his influence runs deeper than either. Behind closed doors and beyond the headlines, he's known simply as the architect. So how does Monaco's most elusive power player live each day? To understand the legend, we have to start with the man behind it. His name is Lucien d'Arval, though most who speak of him rarely say it out loud. In the sun-drenched streets of Monte Carlo, they simply call him the architect, not for buildings, but for the invisible empire he's constructed, brick by quiet brick. Lucien isn't a prince, nor does he hold an official title, yet his signature carries more weight than some royal decrees. He doesn't walk through Monaco, he glides, followed by silence, attention, and the ever-present question, how did he become that powerful? Lucien was born into an old French Monegasque family, once aristocrats, long since faded into the backdrop of Monaco's luxury-soaked scenery. His father was a discreet financier, his mother a silent patron of the art. But Lucien, he was different. From a young age, he understood that real power wasn't in fame, it was in access. While others fought to be seen, he learned how to be heard without speaking, to make decisions without needing permission. By 28, he had taken over the family's private wealth management firm. By 35, he wasn't managing other people's fortunes, he was moving markets. His rise wasn't loud, it was surgical. He invested early in Monaco's transformation from old-world enclave to ultra-modern financial hub. He advised royals, dined with diplomats, and funded projects that never made it into the press. When luxury brands wanted discreet backing, they came to Lucien. When the Eastern tycoons needed a European bridge, they sat at his table. And when local leaders required quiet capital to keep the streets clean and the politics smoother, his number was the one they dialed. Behind closed doors, he's more than a businessman. He's Monaco's unofficial strategist. His name appears on few boards, but his influence is everywhere, embedded in real estate contracts, hidden behind art transactions, written between the lines of international tax codes. Lucien is fluent in the language of power. He never threatens, never shows force. He doesn't have to. His network stretches from private bankers in Geneva to oil magnates in Abu Dhabi to antique dealers in Florence. What makes him formidable is not just who he knows, but how quietly he knows them. His reputation, though rarely discussed publicly, is untouchable. He's respected not because he demands it, but because no one knows exactly where his reach ends. Some say he once saved a foreign prince from scandal. Others claim he owns properties that aren't even on maps. There are whispers that he's been offered diplomatic positions and turned them down. Because why wear a title when you already own the room? To the outside world, he's a mystery dressed in Brionian silence. But within Monaco, Lucien d'Arval is more than a man. He is the system, the undercurrent, the architect. Now that you know who he is, let's step into his world, starting where the morning light hits the Riviera. Each morning begins high above the Monaco coastline, where the sea meets sky in a wash of silver and blue. From his hillside estate nestled behind layers of stone, glass, and silence, Lucien d'Arval opens his eye to a view few will ever witness. His villa, an architectural marvel carved into the cliffs, is hidden from the winding roads below, protected not just by security but by design. It's less a house and more a sanctuary, surrounded by private gardens, reflecting pools, and sculptures that once stood in European galleries. The estate doesn't wake up until he does. At exactly 6:45 a.m., the villa stirs, curtains open with the rising sun. Music hums gently from unseen speakers, and a small team begins preparing the day's rhythm. His personal staff is not large, but hand-picked. A private chef trained in Kyoto and Paris, a head concierge who once ran a 7-star hotel in Dubai, and 3 security personnel who've served in elite diplomatic protection units. They move like clockwork, rarely seen, never heard. Breakfast is not a feast, it's a ritual. On the marble terrace overlooking the Riviera, Lucien prefers silence. The meal is tailored daily, white truffle-scented eggs from an estate in Piedmont, volcanic honey drizzled over citrus flown in from Corsica, a porcelain pot of pu'er tea aged longer than most careers. He doesn't eat for indulgence, he eats for clarity, precision, and rhythm. No phones buzz, no calls interrupt. The only sounds are the breeze through cypress trees and the quiet shuffle of notes being placed beside his setting. Handwritten updates from his advisors. These updates aren't just about markets or investments. They're about art sales in Vienna, political shifts in Dubai, emerging tech talent in Tel Aviv. Each one offers a glimpse into a world only Lucien has learned to read in real time. Once breakfast ends, the morning opens into private time. Some days it's chess against a digital opponent customized to match his style. Other days, it's meditation facing the ocean, led by a teacher who arrives only once a month but whose methods are centuries old. And always, there is art. A canvas he's sketching, a sculpture he's restoring, a gallery he's curating, not for the public but for legacy. Lucien's mornings are carefully designed, not for show but for control, while others chase chaos in meetings and messages. He builds the pace of his day like a conductor. Each note planned, each move deliberate. No alarms, no frenzy. Just clarity before complexity. Because for a man who runs an empire that doesn't wear its name, control begins with calm. After his quiet, controlled start, his day shifts into motion with business, luxury, and power plays. By late morning, Lucien Derval shifts from serenity to strategy. As the city below begins its daily performance of high-end commerce and curated elegance, Lucien moves quietly behind the curtain, orchestrating the real acts of power that shape Monaco's present and its future. While tourists photograph the Casino di Monte Carlo and billionaires stroll the marina, Lucien is already deep in the numbers, the negotiations, and the nuance. His business empire is a constellation spread across multiple sectors, each carefully chosen, quietly maintained, and strategically aligned. In real estate, he holds a quiet but dominant stake in luxury developments across the French Riviera, including several heritage properties discreetly renovated into modern fortresses of wealth. In finance, his influence is less about visible ownership and more about control. Major shares in offshore banking platforms, digital payment infrastructures, and hedge funds tied to sovereign wealth. His name isn't on the doors, but his signature appears in the clauses that matter most. Then there is Monaco's casinos, often seen as the jewel in the principality's glittering crown. While Lucien holds no public title within them, he is said to advise the organization that controls Monte Carlo's most iconic institutions. Insiders know that when a major renovation or acquisition is announced, Lucien's team likely reviewed the plan months before it was approved. His touch is subtle, but it shapes the city's most visible symbols of opulence. Business meetings aren't held in boardrooms with glass walls and loud presentations. For Lucien, a yacht moored just outside the harbor becomes a floating office, where discussions are shielded by sea, security, and silence. A sleek Italian vessel, lined with dark wood and quiet design, hosts private guests, never more than 4 at a time. There, deals are sealed over single-origin espresso and antique port, where phones remain locked below deck. Some days, power lunches happen in the shaded garden of a private villa perched above the Cap d'Aille. Only the most trusted bankers and diplomats are invited. These meetings often involve no documents, no declarations, just conversations built on mutual understandings and long-standing favors. Lucien's world runs not on pressure, but on presence. When he sits across from someone, they understand the stakes without a single word having to be said. Diplomatic calls follow, routed through encrypted lines. Not every call is about business. Some are about art loans to European museums, others about quiet settlements between competing interests in foreign markets. Lucien acts as both bridge and buffer, trusted by multiple nations not because of loyalty, but because of discretion. He doesn't choose sides, he preserves balance. What makes his empire so potent is its invisibility. Where most billionaires plaster their influence across headlines and Instagram feeds, Lucien's power grows in the shadows, measured by the absence of resistance, the silence of competitors, and the way others pause before making a move that might cross him. Within Monaco's elite social circles, he's both myth and measure. Charity events revolve around his RSVP. Private art shows shift their dates to match his travel calendar. When the city discusses new development zones, his preferences are folded in before discussions ever go public. In many ways, Lucien doesn't just operate within Monaco. He defines the atmosphere in which it functions. But even for Monaco's most powerful man, the afternoon brings a different kind of indulgence. When business is done, Lucien Derville transitions into a world few are privileged enough to witness, one defined not by necessity but by refinement. His afternoons are not idle. They are indulgent, deliberate, and utterly exclusive. It's a rhythm shaped by personal taste, practice, ritual, and an unspoken need to remain untouchable, even in leisure. A fleet of cars await his estate each day, but he chooses them like accessories, never flashy, always exact. Sometimes it's a vintage black Bugatti for the slow coastal drive to As, hugging the cliffs as the wind tousles his hair and the sea glints below. Other times, a deep grey Aston Martin whispers through the tunnels toward Nice. Windows up, music off, only the engine speaking for him. These drives are more than scenic escapes. They are moments of movement without noise, speed without destination. Then comes the spa. But not the kind found in glossy magazines or luxury hotels. Lucien prefers discretion. He frequents a health retreat hidden behind an unmarked villa in Roquebrune. Known only to a circle of old money and European royalty, there under glass domes and in marble silence, he slips into cryotherapy chambers, massages performed by practitioners trained in Japanese healing arts, and mineral soaks drawn from alpine waters. Phones are not allowed. Names are never asked. Privacy is part of the treatment. After the body is restored, the wardrobe is refined. Lucien shops alone, or rather never steps into a shop at all. Monaco's most revered tailors come to him. In a private salon just off the Boulevard des Moulins, appointments are conducted behind soundproof doors. Fabrics arrive from Naples, measured in millimeters, not inches. His suits are lined with personal crests. His shoes cobbled in Florence. His cufflinks often older than the buildings that surround them. On occasion, he browses select pieces, rare watches with Cold War backstories, pens once owned by forgotten diplomats, or rings that carry more history than stones. Art, however, is the most personal pursuit. Lucien rarely attends public galleries, preferring instead the intimacy of private viewings. Hidden showrooms in Monaco, London, and Geneva open their doors only for him. Some afternoons he flies by helicopter to Paris to examine a single canvas. Other times he hosts secret auctions in his own villa, surrounded by a handful of collectors. No cameras, no records, just eyes, bids, and the silent thrill of acquisition. But in all of this, what makes Lucien's afternoons truly different isn't just the luxury. It's how quiet they are. Everything is precise, tasteful, and controlled. As the sun dips below the Monaco skyline and the Mediterranean begins to mirror the amber lights of the coast, Lucien Derville slips into the night like it's a suit he was born to wear. His evenings are choreographed down to the minute, not for performance but for precision. Every move has meaning. Every invitation, every appearance is part of a greater strategy. For Lucien, the night is not a playground, it's a stage. Some nights begin at his estate, where long candlelit tables stretch across marble courtyards beneath the open sky. He dines with old allies, distant royals, and rising stars from industries most people have never heard of yet. The air is scented with rosemary from the garden. The menu curated by chefs with Michelin stars and military discipline. Conversations drift from global affairs to widespread deals, from art theory to generational wealth. Laughter flows like a rare wine in their glasses, but nothing spoken is careless. Everyone at the table knows they are sitting in the presence of someone who sees the boat 10 moves ahead. When he attends public events, casino galas, art premieres, elite fundraisers, he is both seen and unseen. His tuxedos are tailored to perfection. His entourage quiet but ever present. Cameras catch a glimpse, never more. He walks through golden halls and marble staircases without rushing, greeting old friends and new threats alike with the same measured gaze. People approach him not to impress, but to be remembered. And yet, despite his presence, he never drifts into celebrity. He navigates fame like a ghost, close enough to be admired, distant enough to never be touched. There are no viral clips of Lucien, no tabloid drama, no exposed scandals. Even his rumored romances are handled with such discretion, they feel more like fables than facts. To be seen with him is a mark of prestige. To be spoken of by him is rarer still. For all his elegance and wealth, Lucien d'Urville's true empire isn't made of gold or property. It's built in whispers, in favors owed, in decisions that never see a ballot box. While others flash their fortunes across social pages and glossy spreads, Lucien's legacy is being carved quietly, like a signature in a wet stone. It's not about visibility, it's about permanence. His philanthropy is never announced, but always felt. He funds the restoration of forgotten churches and the preservation of rare manuscripts, all without asking for a plaque or a headline. Monaco's Grand Concert Hall was on the verge of closing until an anonymous donor saved it. Locals say they know exactly who. Scholarships for gifted youth, medical equipment for hospitals, relief funds for nearby towns after floods, all delivered silently, as if generosity were simply his duty. Yet generosity is only one part of his power. The other part is far harder to define. Rumors suggest that Lucien maintains his influence through unspoken alliances, favors returned long after they've been forgotten, and the quiet handling of problems before they ever make the news. Some say he keeps secrets that could bring kings to their knees. Others believe he doesn't need leverage, just presence. When Lucien walks into a room, decisions bend toward him. Behind closed doors, he's preparing the next chapter, not just for his estate or his businesses, but for the weight of what he's built. He mentors the young discreetly, sons of diplomats, daughters of oil barons, heirs to empires, but only those who understand discretion, discipline, and legacy. The lessons aren't taught in conference rooms. They're passed during long walks through sculpture gardens, quiet debates over 18th century philosophy, and shared silences where a nod says more than a speech ever could. Because for Lucien, legacy isn't a statue or a foundation, it's continuity. It's building a structure that doesn't rely on your name to last. Leave your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that reveal the power behind the world's most glamorous shadows.